Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to the WastePro Global Alliance April webinar. My name is Progress of Momoh, and I am honored to be your moderator for tonight's session. We are live on YouTube, and I will still wait for some people to join us. But while we wait, I just want to thank those that are going to join us from across the continent and beyond. Tonight, we are not just talking about we are talking about opportunity. Our team, From Waste to Wealth 2.0, is a deep dive into how we can transform recycling from a local effort into a scalable, profitable business model for Africa. Before we bring on our distinguished guest speaker, it is vital that we understand the why behind this movement. To share the vision and the core mission of our organization, I am pleased to invite the program manager of WastePro Global Alliance, Madam Candida Nwaro, to give us the WastePro mandate. Madam Candida, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Okay, it's wonderful to be here with you today. You're all welcome to this wonderful WastePro Global Alliance program. So, like our moderator said, before we dive in fully, it will be good we understand where we are. WastePro Global Alliance Foundation is player in the oil and gas industry, and of course you can always approach them if you need advice to build this NGO, WastePro Global Alliance Foundation, which is an
Okay, guys, it looks like Madam Candida went off. I think it's a network issue. But while we wait for her to return, we just need to proceed to the next stage. To formally set the stage for tonight's masterclass and welcome our distinguished guest, I am pleased to invite the convener of the WastePro Global Alliance, Mr. David Idakwo, to give his opening remarks and introduce our speaker. Mr. David, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Progress. And thank you, everyone who has been able to join this conversation tonight. It's a privilege to have you around on this unique opportunity to discuss and to, dive into all that we are going to be talking about tonight. Yes, one of the things that we have overlooked over the years is on the inability to see beyond the waste that we dispose, which to a large extent become nuisance and constitutes a lot of concern to the industry and even to the environment itself in general. So tonight, I welcome us to this meeting, and I want to tell you that the speaker we have tonight, our guest speaker, is a seasoned environmentalist, a seasoned industry man, someone who has been in that space for a long time and still counting. He's a person of Dr. Charles Ekeh. He is the managing director of Latrina Worldwide Limited, a company that is into service provision to the oil and gas industry. A lot of projects have been done by this company, even to manage the environment in line. So Dr. Charles Ekeh is a seasoned industry veteran with over 25 years of experience in the energy and engineering sectors, including senior leadership roles he has played, even with global giants like Scalable, where he has had to do one or two things there. And for nearly a decade now, he has served as the headman in charge of this company called Latrina Worldwide Limited, bringing a high level of strategic approach to resource management and corporate operations in the oil and gas industry. So he's a true academic and professional heavyweight as well, because he has double PhDs, of course, yes, and he's a United Nations Peace Ambassador. So he joins us tonight as a certified management consultant as well to show us how to scale these recycling models into profitable enterprises. So friends and all of us on the call tonight, join me to welcome. You can use your emoji on your app on the YouTube to welcome our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Charles Ekeh. Sir, please, it's your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Idakwo. I also want to thank your team, the team of WastePro Global Alliance Foundation. And I also want to thank everyone who has found time to be part of this monthly webinar. Very quickly, for want of time, we'll go into the business of the day. The intro has been done. Tonight, we'll be looking at from waste to wealth, unlocking scalable recycling business models in Africa. Just as Mr. David Idakwo has said, my name is Dr. Charles Ekeh. I'll be presenting tonight. And by the grace of God, I'm a petroleum geophysicist, and I'm the managing director of Latrina Worldwide Limited, one of the foremost waste management companies in Nigeria. Before we dive into the main substance of our presentation today, I'd like to run through our outline. We're going to do a brief introduction. Then we talk about the waste challenges in Africa. We navigate down through to waste to wealth, which of course is a business opportunity which we all want to hear and want to know. And then we talk about the recyclable waste in their categories. We will also discuss scalable recycling business models, recycling value chain, which has to do with the profit center, case studies across Africa, environmental and social impact, success factors, the challenges, solutions and opportunities, revenue streams in recycling, how to start a recycling business. I think this is where majority of us would want to pay close attention. And then we'll talk about the technologies involved in recycling. We'll also talk about the investment opportunities, and then call to action. And then we conclude. Thereafter, we'll give room for questions and answers. Very quickly, I want to let us know that Africa generates well over 125 million metric tons of waste annually. 125 million metric tons of waste annually. This is huge. This is mind-blowing. And when you hear such figures, what comes to mind? And so I tell people that waste is no longer just a problem to be managed. Waste is an opportunity waiting to be harnessed. And it's important to note that the concept of waste to wealth transforms discarded materials into valuable resources, turning environmental challenges into economic gains. In a world facing rapid urbanization, rising consumptions, and increasing waste generation, this approach offers a sustainable pathway to reduce pollution, create jobs, and drive innovation. And so when we hear 125 million metric tons of waste being generated in Africa annually, and less than 10% is recycled, then if you are business inclined, you will see that this is really a business opportunity. The actual figure we are talking about, according to United Nations, on Africa and all that, is 4%. That's the actual. Less than 10% is recycled. The actual figure there is 4% from the last assessment. And so waste is a huge economic opportunity in Africa. Okay, waste challenges in Africa. Number one, we talk about the urbanization. We talk about population growth, which has resulted in the increase in waste generation. We talk about inefficient, poor, and informal waste collection systems. It's important we note that in our neighborhoods, we hear people say, condemn, iron condemn, bring them, I go buy them. Bring them, I go buy them. These are very informal ways of collecting waste. And that's to tell you the level at which Africa is operating as far as waste collection is concerned, particularly in Nigeria. Environmental risks, especially from hazardous waste, growing pressure on government and infrastructure. We see open dumps and landfills everywhere. There is hardly no time you drive along the cities of Port Harcourt, in Lagos, even in Abuja, that you will not see dumps of refuse, wastes, most of which have great economic value. And then we talk about limited recycling and circular economy. I want us to understand that we also have what we call the linear economy. And that is exactly what most of us are practicing. You go to the market, you buy a product, you use it, and it's faulty, you dispose. That is linear economy. But under circular economy, the concept of you make, you use, you reuse, and recycle, and all that comes in. And so you continue to use a particular product until such a time when you know obviously that the value, has been completely exhausted. And as a waste expert, there is no end to using any product. It's either you use it to a point where you cannot upscale. So that is what we're talking about, circular economy. Then the weak policy implementations and funding gaps. Now, if I ask, what is driving this high volume of waste? Not only in Nigeria, but across Africa. But tonight, I'm going to present to us Accra as a case study, and also Nairobi as another case study in Kenya. Now, one of the reasons why we have high volume of waste across Africa is rapid urbanization. Rapid urbanization. Then we talk about population growth. Africa has one of the fastest growing population globally. That's, it's not in contest. The statistics are there. And then we talk about the changing consumption patterns. In the 70s, down up to the 80s, and even up to early 90s, most communities within Port Harcourt, within Lagos, hardly find things like moi in plastics. No. Even agidi, they are found in leaves. That's where they are packaged and they are presented and sold. But today, it's very rare to see as little as moi or agidi being packaged, with leaves. We have completely gone plastic. And that is the era we are. And rather than see challenges, we in this industry, we are seeing opportunities. We are seeing, wealth deposited. And it's important we note that. And then next is waste to wealth. Beginning from the waste, you can convert your waste to a raw material. This raw material can be translated into energy. And today we have industrial products from waste. Now, if you look at the graph before you, that is just the African model we are talking about and we're looking at. You can see the first bar there has to do with the waste, which confirms the 125 metric tons of waste Africa generates annually. And the question is, how much of this is recycled in Africa? Less than 10%. Less than 10%. And when you see less than 10% being recycled, what does it translate into? It translates into great opportunities. As you can see, as at this February 2026, the figure has even moved up a little bit above 80 million in terms of value. And so the opportunity in Africa is huge. So anyone who has what it takes to come into the industry, your profit is guaranteed. Every waste collected has value. And so in Africa, you have great opportunity. And then we look at what are these wastes that are recyclable. Most times, most people believe that all wastes are recyclable. No, not all wastes are recyclable. But for the purpose of this presentation, plastic is recyclable. Metals are recyclable. Paper, recyclable. Glass, recyclable. Of course, organic wastes are also recyclable. And so when you look at the infographic there should not, disturb you. It's nothing but information and graphic coming together, being put together. If you look at the infographic, you will see that paper is 20%. Plastic is 15%. Glass is 10%. And metal, 25%. That is what you see. And why is recycling so low in Africa? That's the question that is begging for an answer. Why is recycling so low? Number one, poor infrastructure. Number two, informal sector dominance. Just as I told us from the beginning, when you move around, even right in your place of abode, you see them come around and they tell you, condemn iron, condemn battery, condemn this, condemn that. And you peep to look and they'll tell you, bring them for me, I buy them. These are informal, you know, we still operate in an informal system where this waste trickle into the hands of these people, and of course, they make some money out of it. And then we talk about low awareness, policy gaps, and all of that. Then the next has to do with recycling business models. Recycling business models. Number one, collection and aggregation network, which is the foundation of the value chain. We'll talk about processing and recycling plants. That has to do with the value creation proper. And then upscaling. I did mention upscaling here. For those of us who may not understand, when you talk of upscaling, let's use your jean trouser, for instance. You have a jean trouser you've worn for a very long time, and you are tired of wearing the jean, or by virtue of your increase or change in shape, it's no longer compatible with you. What do? Do you throw it away? The answer is no. Under secular economy, you don't throw it away. What do? You can upscale. That jean trouser can be upscaled into a handbag. And you sell the handbag and make a lot of money, even much more than you bought the jean trouser. That's upscaling. So we talk about upcycling and manufacturing. Here we are talking about high value innovation stage. And of course, waste to energy solution, which has to do with the energy conversion stage. Today, we hear of plants being powered or, through waste. So we are yet to get there. In Kenya, they are already making use of waste to energy innovation. Waste to energy innovation in Kenya. And then recycling value chain, that's the profit center. The waste, which is the raw resource, collection, the supply chain entry point, then the sorting, the value identification stage, processing, which has to do with the transformation stage, and of course, the revenue realization stage, which has to do with the market. If you look at the pictures on the screen, you will see the various stages I have mentioned. There are 5 of them. And the pictures there clearly, shows how this waste, move from one stage to the other. You can see the waste, the first picture. Then from there, they are being collected, and then sorting is being carried out, and then is moved to a processing plant, where through thermal desorption and all of that, the wastes are being compressed and then melted. And of course, you have a new product which has flooded the market. You can see the last picture there has to do with the products. And when you are able to get to this point of revenue realization, then you know that you're talking about Naira and Kobo, because this product for sure will go back to the market and then you make money. And so waste, it's not just a challenge. Waste, it's an opportunity to make wealth. And so I want to encourage us to embrace waste to wealth strategies, such as recycling, upcycling, and composting and energy recovery and all of that. It's a shift, not only that supports environmental sustainability, but also stimulates local economics and promotes, circular development. The next slide. Okay, these case studies across Africa. I've told us here that we'll be looking at major cities in 3 African countries. If you look at Ghana as the first on the slide, they are presently celebrating. In fact, for some years ago, they have been using waste to construct their roads. They have plastic road innovation. Sometime last year, my wife traveled to Ghana and came back to share her experience, with me, how some of the roads are smooth as anything. And I was laughing. I told her that most of the roads you see in Ghana today are plastic roads, very smooth, and that is as a result of this circular economy that is presently in use in Ghana. You go to places like Accra, you go to places like Kumasi, you see plastic roads being constructed. That is awesome. But in Nigeria, the case is different because we are still at this startup stage. We're still recycling, and all that. So if you ask me from the slide, I said it's emerging. We're emerging rapidly. Nigeria is emerging rapidly. And it's an opportunity for everyone who is desiring to be part of this business opportunity in Nigeria. And so I use this opportunity to invite you to be part of what is happening in Nigeria as far as waste to wealth is concerned. We have agencies of government that will help you, agencies like NISRA. NISRA is there. In fact, recently they supported about 38 companies in Port Harcourt. 38 companies with, some materials and also some little, take-off funds. And let me inform us here that Latrena had the privilege of sending a staff to NISRA in one of their trainings. And we got a small tip from them. So the agencies of government are working. All you have to do is to key in and see how you can, start off your business in this secular, innovation. Waste to wealth. Then the next is Kenya. Waste to energy initiative. Kenya, as we speak, have moved from recycling to other innovations to energy. You go to Nairobi, most major industries there rely on waste to generate their energy. And so they are gaining traction every day. And so generally the solutions are already working. That's what you should take away as far as this slide is concerned. The case studies across Africa. The solutions are already working. It's not in doubt whether this thing they are talking about, waste to wealth or not, is it working on? It is working. People are making money on daily basis. If it is not at the emerging stage, it is either at the gaining traction stage. And so whichever one that suits you, and you have the capacity in terms of funding, you gain from it. Very, very important. Then the next slide, we're talking about the environmental and social impact. No doubt, job creation, and poverty reduction. In fact, if you ask me, it's not just poverty reduction, it's poverty eradication. Because the volume of waste in Africa has the capacity to completely eradicate poverty. Because we have told us that we have over 125 million metric tons of waste being generated annually. And that is huge in terms of naira and kobo. It's huge. So the next is reduce environmental pollution, which has to do with public health and ecosystem protection. And of course, we talk about the development of sustainable cities, long-term economic and environmental balance. And then contribution to climate change mitigation. And so if you look at the three pictures there, you see young men who are happy, doing what they should do. Because in the absence of, job opportunities in the, in government or in the oil companies and other private establishments, you could take up this as an opportunity to be engaged. And by so doing, you are empowered. So you can see the first picture is there. And then the second one has to do with, getting this waste from the water bodies. By getting the waste, you're making money out of it. And on one hand, you're also cleaning the environment. And of course, the last has to do with the sustainability of our cities. The next slide. Then the key success factors, what are they? We're talking about access to financing, which is funding. It is the brain box, it's the fuel for scale and sustainability. I've just told us here, there are agencies, that support circular economy. I want to believe that those of us who are listening and are interested can always reach out to WastePro Global Alliance Foundation. They have the details of all the agencies of government that can support you, in terms of access to finance. So by virtue of this presentation tonight, you have a sure way or avenue through which you can reach out to the financial institutions who, of course, have earmarked certain amount of money to support circular projects. And so we now talk about strong regulatory and policy frameworks. These are very, very important. They are like enablers, enabling environment and, of course, regulation. And then we talk about adoption of modern technologies, efficiency, scale, and innovation drivers. Then active community participation. So if you look at the pictures there, they are also, telling us exactly all the success factors that we've been talking about here. The next slide, we talk about the key challenges. Of course, if we tell you there are no challenges, we will not be telling you the whole truth. Poor infrastructure, which has to do with the system weakness. Low public awareness. And I want to believe that it is because of the low public awareness that in the wisdom of WastePro Global Alliance, that this monthly webinar is set up to create awareness, to, inform the public that, look, this is what is going on. And these are ways you can seek or source for fund and all that, and be part of the circular economy. So low public awareness is a challenge. Then funding issues, which of course I've mentioned before, financial constraints. But like I tell people, when you want to start a secular business, start from the start. Don't wait to have all the millions at your disposal before you start. Right where you live, in your place of abode, you can send some little boys around places where they do maybe wedding, and all those ceremonies, conferences. Of course, they drink water and also other, drinks. Let them gather this waste, bring it to you, and you give them maybe as little as 100 naira, 200, 500 naira. You'll be shocked the volume of plastics you would have gathered. And what you have gathered is real money. By the time you get to certain volume, even if you are not into recycling proper, you can take them to the recyclers, and then you are paid, reasonable amount of money. So policy inconsistency and weak enforcement is also another. So it's very important we have this at the back of our minds. And so what are the solutions and the opportunities? Number one, public-private partnership, what we know and call PPP. Public-private partnership. You collaborate. WastePro Global Alliance is there to give you more tips on how to go about this partnership. Where you are in doubt, you can as well approach Nesri. In Port Harcourt, Nesri is at D-Line. You go to D-Line and make all the inquiries. And the set of staff there are wonderful people. They are ever ready and willing to support, to encourage, and where need be, to also fund you if they see the seriousness in you. I'm telling you what some of us have benefited from. And then we talk about the digital waste tracking system, of course, which we call a smart waste management system. We have adopted that in our office, even up to, installing trackers system in our trucks, so we don't have waste. So the digital waste tracking system is also one aspect of, solution that has come. It's also an opportunity. Then the youth and the SMEs engagement, that's the small, medium enterprise. You engage in workforce and innovation engine. Then the ESG, the environment, the social and governance, platform. Very, very important. The next, the revenue streams in recycling. What are the revenue streams? If you look at the slide here, you look at the various colors I've been able to put up here. The largest portion is the 40%. And that largest portion comes from the sale of processed recyclables. And that is the actual picture of where we are in Nigeria. And then the next has to do with the export market. Let me shock you. I was in a school recently, that was last month. I was made a guest speaker, and after addressing them, they took me around to all that they have done. The, what do you call it? Skills day or so. And I was going round and round, and I saw coconut vase, well designed, and all that. I have it in my house. I had to buy this coconut vase, from this little child for 15,000 naira. And I tell you, All other parents who were in attendance went for this coconut verse. What is it all about? Broken coconut shell. This little child was able to put it together in a very fanciful way, well designed, and was making lots of money. She produced close to, was it 8 or so, and the entire 8 was sold before we left. So aside export markets, you can as well convert some of this waste and you make money. People are exporting, some waste to other countries and they are earning forex. Recently, just last year, December, I was privileged to be in the Middle East to look at the high level of the huge deposit of waste, copper slag waste. And I have been able to carry out lab analysis over there. I came back, confirmed what they have, and currently we're making plans to either move the waste to Nigeria. And what do we intend to do? We want to sell this waste to the cement industry, because we have been able to find out that this waste deposited in Dokum, in Oman, has a lot of value for road construction. And it's an additive also for the cement manufacturers. So if you are into that, you're sure that you make reasonable amount of money from exports of these materials. Of course, the carbon credits. When we talk about the carbon credits, some of us may not really understand, because in Europe currently, there's what they call carbon capturing. Carbon capturing. You also talk about carbon sequestration. Now, how does it look like? What are we talking about when we talk about carbon credits? Now, most of these vehicles, or some of these vehicles, have installed what looks like boxes. And these boxes are designed in such a way that you can easily remove them from vehicles and also insert them into vehicles. What happens? You connect it in such a way that the fume or the exhaust from the exhaust pipe, all the carbon that leaves the vehicle is stored into this box in the car. And the moment it's filled, on the dashboard, you will notice that, yes, that box is filled. And then you extract it, you remove it. Do you know that this is real money in Europe? People sell them. And so credit is given when you are able to capture carbon and you bring it to certain organizations. So the next, we talk about government incentives, subsidies. I need not overflog this issue. I've mentioned NESRA severally here. So they are, of course, one of the agencies of government under the Federal Ministry of Environment in Nigeria that you can readily approach, because in their budgets, they have incentives. In their budgets, they have provision for subsidies. So if you're able to approach them with your proposals and they see that you have what it takes to attract or get these incentives, they'll give you. I've just told us that we have benefited from NESRI. And so if you can benefit from NESRI, you also can also benefit, can access such incentives or subsidies and be a beneficiary. And then we talk about how to start a recyclable business in Nigeria. That every one of us would want to listen keenly, carefully. One, identify a viable waste stream. That's the opportunity discovery stage. If you're able to identify the area you want to, I've just told us here, we have different, types of waste. We have the plastic, we have glass, we have, all of them, even metal. So you now decide on which lane you want to be. You want to focus on iron, condemn, like they say, iron condemn. You focus on iron. Do you want to focus on plastics? You focus on plastics. Do you want to focus on glass? You focus on glass. And then be consistent in what you're doing. And let people know that if I'm looking for glass, I should go to Mr. David. David is an expert. He gathers all kinds of glass, all shades of glass, all colors of glass. David has glass. You go there, you take as much as you can, go to maybe the recycling facility to recycle them. And of course, if they are recycled, you have a new product which is marketable. And so you should identify a particular and viable waste stream. We're talking about business opportunities here now. Then the next is to develop a collection or aggregation system. Of course, you can't do this in the comfort of your home. You must get a space. You must have a space where you keep them. And that's what we're talking about, the informal system flooding, the market. On our roads, you see them, and to a large extent, they also, contribute a lot of pollution because of the way and manner they are handled. Even sorting is a problem for most of them because wastes are not supposed to be lumped together. You have to sort them. They have to be in their different, categories. And so you develop a collection and aggregation system. You build a network of supply chain. And then partner with recyclers or processors. That's what we're talking about, strategic collaboration. Nesre comes in there, and indeed all others. And then you secure funding and investment, growth and expansion stage. Then you start small and scale strategically. Very, very important. It's important we have that. Ultimately, waste to wealth is about changing mindsets. The mindset. If you want to come into this industry, you have to change your mindset. Seeing waste not as an end, but as the beginning of a new value. It is a powerful tool for building cleaner cities, of course, resilience, economy, and more sustainable future. Very, very important. And so I want to use this opportunity to welcome as many of us who are listening and would want to be part of this circular economy. It pays. I want to repeat, it pays. And so we'll now move over to technology in recycling. We have the AI-powered sorting. That is advanced technology. For a beginner, I wouldn't ask you, to go into AI-powered sorting because this technology is not easy to come by in terms of naira and kobo. It's an intelligent waste separation system. But like I said in other previous slide, you just start small. Gradually, you get to this stage. And then the advanced recycling machinery, core recycling infrastructure, and all of that. We talked about the mobile app platform, for waste collection and logistics, digital waste ecosystem, data-driven waste management system. So it's important. There's nobody that doesn't have phone in Nigeria today. No adult, no matter how small the phone is. But I want to let you know that the phone in your hands, how have you been able to maximize the benefits therein? How? Because some of these apps we're talking about, some of these platforms we are talking about, all you have to do is just to know them and then download them from your Play Store. You download them and then make use of them. They are all there. We have our own, app that we are running with, and it's, specific to us the way, the engineer came to do the installations and all that. And so where you need such this thing, collaboration comes in. You reach out to WastePro Global Alliance. That's where they are there. And I'm sure if you reach out to them, you will definitely get an answer to any question or concern of yours. And then investment opportunity will continue. The green financing instrument, sustainability focused capital. We're talking about funding here. You have the impact investing funding. We talk about the carbon market, which I've explained to us here, although it's not applicable to us in Nigeria yet because we are still at the low ebb as far as this circular economy is concerned. But we believe that as we make progress, we'll get to this stage. Of course, the Infrastructure Development Fund, they are all there. What do we mean by this? Let's say, for instance, you have a piece of land and you have been consistent with the little support received from NESRE and all other agencies of government as far as circular economy is concerned, and you have a piece of land and you approach them probably with a proposal, attaching the evidence of ownership of this piece of land, and then you want to, develop it in the area of circular economy. There are agencies of government that will help you to upgrade, that will help you to expand, that will also help you even during the construction stage with fund. So they exist. The challenge there is how to identify them, how to locate them, and then the process of raising, your proposal and transmitting to them. So very, very important. Then call to action. We want to encourage us to invest in recycling infrastructure, commit capital to this wonderful opportunity. And I assure you that if you do, you will come back to say thank you. Because there is no, if I say there is no loss in this waste to wealth era, I mean every sense of it. Promote waste segregation at source. You enable efficient recycling. I've talked about this before. Because the informal sector has dominated the industry. And so people who are more knowledgeable, very knowledgeable like you and I, who should be at the forefront are not available. So the informal sector, lump everything together. You see someone bringing in metals, plastics, and then glass all in one place, and they are together. They're not even, there's no sorting of any kind. So it's a problem. So we must promote waste segregation at source, if possible. And then advocate for enabling policies. We engage government. The agencies of government are there. Reach out to them, and all that. Make suggestions, make inputs. And you'll be shocked that the government will be so excited and happy to receive your contributions, and where necessary, they will make adjustments. Of course, we'll talk about support, innovation, and local enterprises. If you start up a limited liability company in Nigeria today, there's what they call tax relief. If you register a company with Corporate Affairs Commission, they give you a tax relief for a period of time. I think not more than 3 months. And then there are also other, benefits that come from this. And so more of this will be shared with the foundation, the WastePro Global Alliance. Of course, in conclusion, waste is a hidden gold mine. It's a hidden wealth. Africa holds immense untapped potentials. Collaboration across sector is very critical. And that is why if you must act, you must act now. The future of Africa's economy can be built on its waste. we have told us that Africa generates 125 million metric tons of waste annually. And so Africa is sitting on a gold mine of waste. What we call a crisis is actually one of the largest untapped economic opportunities of our time. Waste is not just something to manage. Waste is a complete economic ecosystem. From collection to energy, every stage creates wealth. The waste economy is not a single business. It is a full value chain. The real opportunity lies in identifying where you can play, scale, and dominate within that chain. Success in the waste economy is not accidental. It is built on capital, guided by policy, powered by technology, and sustained by people. Thank you very much, and God bless you. So the next is question and answer. I want to use this opportunity to thank the members of WastePro Global Alliance under the leadership of a very dynamic and wonderful friend of mine, Mr. David Idakwo. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with your team and, of course, our teaming viewers and listeners. So it's on this note I want to request the coordinator to please come on board for the questions, if there are, so we can attend to them accordingly. Thank you once again. Is anyone hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful presentation. We have our first question, and they are asking, good evening, sir. You mentioned paper. How do I recycle it? That's the first question.
Okay. Okay. How do I recycle paper? Now, you have what they call shredding machine. There are various ways of recycling paper. Now, there is what they call shredding machine. If you shred paper, you have what looks like chaff, and most materials that we see have paper materials stored in them, and then they are now converted to wealth, to money. You make money out of it. Rather than burn it, set it on fire, which we don't advocate. In a secular economy, we don't do that. We don't do that. We try as much as possible to reuse, to use and reuse and, recycle. And so if you cannot recycle, you can still upscale. You convert it from one useful end to another. And so I use our office as example, as a case study, we have a lot of papers here and there. What we do, we shred them. And from time to time, we gather the shredded papers, you know, put them together, and you're able to get another product from it. Or you can also enclose it, you know, like it's like when you have waste clothes in the house and you don't want to set them on fire, you just shred them, you know, with scissors, cut, and then sew what looks like a case, pillowcase, you know, put them in there, and then you either zip it or you use machine to, you know, seal up the mouth. And then it serves as pillow, even more durable, long-lasting than these collapsible pillows we buy. So there are so many ways of converting materials from one stage, you know, to the other. I've just told us what we do, you know, how we recycle our own papers, you know, in the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful breakdown. We have another question from John Abdullahi. The question is, how can local youths and community leaders get involved in the recycling value chain without needing massive upfront capital?
Good. I want to thank Abdullahi for this brilliant question. You know, if you listen carefully, I did mention that the best way to start this, you know, waste business is to start from the start. Unfortunately, our Gen Zs, you know, like it, you know, big. They want to start big. No, you start from the start. And I've given us some tips here. If you have a space within your residence, and you know that if you start collecting these wastes, it will not be an issue with your neighbors or your landlord. You have enough space that can accommodate this, and then from time to time you take it out. Fine, you can start from there. You start from there. You don't need to, you know, be involved in the entire value chain. No, you don't need to. All you need to do is to identify where these materials are, these wastes are. And I've told us here, if you go to a wedding reception venue in the city of Port Harcourt or Lagos or Abuja or any other place, at the end of the wedding reception, the quantity of materials you see there is mind-blowing. That is just one center, one reception venue. And if you have young children, you give 500, 1,000 to get you certain volume of plastic, say for instance, you'll be shocked that the entire compound where you live will be flooded with waste. And so when you start that way, small, you either gather, and because you do not have recycling facility, you now take it to a recycling facility. They will now buy it from you at a higher value, more money for you. Say, for instance, you have spent like 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira in gathering them. And then you're able to take it to the recycler. And then you're making 50,000 naira. That's profit. That's profit. And so by the time you do this over time and you are consistent in saving your money, there is no way you will not grow. If some of us have grown in the business today, why not? You can as well grow. So it's important. And again, with the support from Nesre, if you go there now, they will tell you when next they'll be doing their, you know, support program and all of that. I don't have their program. I don't work there. But I've just mentioned Nesre. They have it in their policy. From time to time, They organize such programs and support people who are interested in this circular economy. The money may not be fantastic, but at all, like we say in our local parlance, naim be winch. At all, naim back pass. You're giving 50,000, say for instance, or you're giving 100,000 naira. You do the business within the available fund, praying and believing that with time you will grow more than where you are. So that's how it rolls. You know, Rome was not built in a day. So if you're consistent in the business, it will get to a point where you have enough money to even import, you know, some of these gadgets, you know, and set up your own factory. And then you are no longer buying, you are no longer selling this waste. You are now buying, you know, to feed your factory and all that. And then you now convert it, you know, from one level of waste to another, you know, a profitable end use. You know, say for instance, if it's a plastic waste material, you melt and all that, and then you convert it maybe to overhead tank, you know, or you convert it to other plastics like a basin, you know, and all that, if you have the facility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful deep dive. We have another question from Precious Emeka, and he's asking, for someone interested in green energy solution, what is your view on biogas and biomass? Do you think it's something that is sustainable?
Of course it is. You know, when we talk about biogas, it's turning waste into clean energy. That's what we're talking about, into renewable energy. And so it's sustainable, very, very sustainable. Of course, biogas, I'm a science person, so it's mainly composed of methane. You know, that's the primary energy component of biogas. So it's sustainable. Of course, maybe with a small trace of gas and all of that. So if you have organic waste, it's those who have built houses in recent time, you hear people talk about, you know, digester and all of that. You know, it's a system where you don't just have your sockaway collecting all the waste. You have a kind of sockaway system that can as well be, you know, constructed in such a way that you make money out of it. So things are evolving, things are going. So biogas, you know, is sustainable. That's just the long and short of it. It's sustainable. Of course,
All right.
it's also, you know, clear. I'm sure most of us must have heard that some of these, you know, things are also connected through tubes and pipes, and they serve as cooking fuel, you know. And also, in some climes, like in Kenya, they have been able to convert their waste to energy, which has to do with electricity generation. So these are the things we're talking about. So it's sustainable, very, very sustainable. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, sir. So we have one more question from Dr. Erut, and he's asking, how do we promote and sustain waste segregation at source in our communities?
Okay. Yeah. Waste segregation. Thank you, the fellow who has just asked this question. It's a very big challenge, you know, when you get to places, especially within our communities, where these wastes are dumped, and then you have the challenge of sorting them. That's the first, you know, assignment that you should give to yourself. You have to sort them, because you don't just gather all of them and then it doesn't make sense. But if it's an environment where the people are, you know, enlightened, and you have waste containers within that area, you could just place them and then have some kind of label on each of those containers. You know, to a large extent, those who are wise, those who understand, will definitely dispose this waste according to their, categories. But where it is not possible, it becomes the responsibility of the waste manager, to separate them according to their classes. And then if you are a recycler, you recycle them accordingly. If you are not a recycler, you are just a waste collector, you now take them to the recycling facilities, to recycle. And of course, anything taken to a recycling facility attracts money. Whatever you take attracts money. Here in Port Harcourt, you have somewhere around as if you're going to Aba, there is a Chinese settlement there. I mean, they left China to Nigeria, and they had to set up a recycling system, a facility here between Obibo and Aba, somewhere around there after one university. By the right hand side, if you're driving to you see people go there with trucks of condemned metals, some with other materials. They go there, they sell them, and then these Chinese, we buy after weighing them, and then they will now recycle these materials and sell back to Nigerian markets and make so much money for themselves. So why can't Nigerians invest in this circular economy? Why can't we? So I want to clearly state here that sorting is a challenge, but if you're a waste collector, it shouldn't be a burden, because you know that ultimately you are converting your waste to wealth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So it looks like the webinar was specifically made for Joy Jonas. This is her second question. She's asking, how do I locate a company that are into shredding of papers if I want to go into the paper recycling business?
Okay, thank you, Joy Jonas. Very brilliant question you've asked, and you need don't bother yourself looking elsewhere. Reach out to WastePro Global Alliance Foundation. I'm sure they have their website, and they have all their contacts there, and they are in a better position to direct and guide also if you want to go into waste paper collection, and probably shredding and all of that. There are so many companies in the city of Port Harcourt. If you are in Port Harcourt, or if you are in Lagos, there are so many companies in Lagos, who are that are into paper collection and, of course, transforming paper waste to wealth. So feel free to reach out to them, and Mr. Progress, it's also important you make your contact, available for them, because so many of them may have questions to ask, or they are unable to reach out to this platform to ask this question as at this time. So let them have access to WastePro Global Alliance Foundation to enable them, ventilate whatever is or are their concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I'll put that in mind concerning the contact sharing. Then we have one final question, and it's a big one from Chijoke. So he started by saying, Nigeria is a very difficult country to have an effective and successful waste management plan. What options do you believe can be adopted to get an effective regulatory compliance? This is the last question.
Okay. Well, if you say, thank you, Chijioke. If you say that Nigeria is a very difficult country, your perspective may not be completely wrong and may not be completely right. You know, it all depends on your viewpoint. As far as secular economy is concerned, I have told us here that it's emerging. We have not advanced, because before now, other countries have gone ahead of Nigeria. Ghana have told us here that they have moved from waste collection and all of that to transforming their plastics to road construction. That's the level they are. There is no road in Nigeria that you can pinpoint to say, oh, this road was built with plastic. I have not seen. If you see any, please let me know, because we are in the industry and we understand clearly. And so if you go to Kenya, you see that they have gone beyond even Ghana to the point of generating energy from waste. Some cities are powered through waste. Here in Kenya, Kenya is in Africa, so we're not talking about Europe. Let me not mention other nations, because our focus today is in Africa. That's what we're talking about, unlocking scalable recycling business models in Africa. Because having lived and stayed in some part of Middle East, I find myself, you know, it's difficult to believe that you can live in certain places and you don't have power, that is power outage for a whole month. They don't experience blackouts. And then when you ask some of them, how do you generate power? How do you generate energy? They will laugh. Some of them tell you that they use gas. And how do you get gas? You know, the former previous question fellow who asked question talking about biogas and all that. I mean, they have moved from the level we are now to something else. And it's sustaining. So for policy and regulatory, issues and all that, I have told us that the Federal Ministry of Environment is saddled with that responsibility. And so where you have concerns, you can approach any of the agencies under the Federal Ministry of, Environment. And I've given us specific name. That's the nursery. You go there, make all the inquiries. That is even why they are there. They are not there for themselves. They are there for you and I. Most times we see all these agencies of government as purely regulatory. No, some of them are open for business. You come up with a proposal that you want to set up a paper, recycling facility. And you'll be surprised that they have contacts that will even help you and enable you to start to set it up faster than you even think of. So in terms of regulatory compliance, as been asked by my friend Chijioke, I mean, it's important, that these agencies are there to help. And where you have concerns too, they will be there also to navigate through, to guide you and all of that. So Nigeria, if you ask me, it's not a difficult place as far as this, compliance is concerned. The problem we have is enforcement. That's the problem we have, enforcement. Because if you know that waste, say for instance, is supposed to be dumped at certain period of time of the day, and you go contrary to that, and then you have people who enforce the laws, of course, people will be very careful not to be dumping refuse here and there on our streets, every time. So it's important we have that at the back of our mind. Nigeria is not as difficult as that. The problem we have is that enforcement is no longer, in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Charles Ekeh, for the wonderful breakdown. Although there are still some questions, but in the interest of time, I think any other question can be directed to the WhatsApp group. I believe Mr. Dr. Charles will be able to tackle that because we are way behind right now. So, Dr. Charles, thank you so much. My notepad is officially full, and I'm not even surprised. You know, a man with over 25 years of industry experience, we are indeed in the presence of a titan. Thank you so much. And also, on behalf of the WastePro Global Alliance team, we are saying a big thank you to you. I also want to thank our convener, Mr. David Idakwo, and also our program manager, Madam Candida Nwaro, for making this session possible. And most importantly, I want to say a big thank you to our audience. And also, please do not forget to follow WastePro Global Alliance on all social media platforms and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on our next webinar. So Dr. Charles said something that some people would love to reach out to WastePro Global. So if there is any inquiries, please, I'm going to drop the contact and also the email address. You can direct all of that to the WastePro Global Alliance Secretariat, who would tackle it from there. And also, WastePro Global Alliance has set up functional systems and resources to support interest parties, open to collaboration, open to partnerships, and investors are also highly welcomed. So connect with us and let's do wonders in the waste management sector. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms as well. This webinar is a monthly exercise. So my name is Progress of Momoh, and it has been a pleasure being your moderator. Have a productive and sustainable evening, everyone. We are officially signing off. Thank you, Dr. Charles Ekeh. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you, everyone who, found time to be part of this monthly webinar of WastePro Global Alliance. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you, everyone who came on the call. Have a wonderful night rest. See you again next month.